everybody, and welcome back to Let's Be Saints Awakened. I'm Cecilia Watson, and I'm here with Andrew Birkin. Today, we have a particularly special guest with us today. Andrew, if you would like to have the honor of introducing him.
Absolutely. Thank you, Cecilia. So today, we have a very special guest, like Cecilia said, Mr. President here with us, Dr. Wade. So it's quite the honor to have you on our podcast. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, so it's really a pleasure and a blessing to be here, and I thank you so much for taking the time to interview me a little bit. This is I've been looking forward to it since you put it on my calendar, and it's kind of a break from my day-to-day craziness that starts at 4 o'clock in the morning and ends at midnight on most nights. So I'm excited to be here and to talk to you a little bit about how we got here, our journey, why faith's important to me, and everything that goes along with that. So I'm hoping to have just a wide open discussion, and looking forward to some of the questions or interests that you may have.
Yeah. Great.
Again, it's I tell everyone all the time that my last name is pronounced kind of weirdly. It's Rousse, like goose.
Rousse.
So I say Rousse like goose, and they keep it because a lot of people call me Rouse, but it's Rousse like goose, and I joke with the Rouse family that if they would cut me in on some of that grocery money, I'd drop an S. I get an extra S in that touch.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's why I didn't introduce you with your.
Yeah, I caught that. So
I wasn't quite.
I was bailing you out there.
Yeah,
there you go.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I guess we'll just start off with how did you end up here in McNeese?
Wow, it's a long story. So grew up in Golden Meadow, Louisiana, the other side of the state, on a I like to say we were very rich in love, just not in money. I grew up in a house trailer in Golden Meadow, and actually came here as an undergraduate on an athletic scholarship, and went through the trials and tribulations of that time. And, I had a mother that was so passionate about higher education being a way to a better life, and had the opportunity to come here. Wasn't worth a flip at football. I never played it down. They ended up firing our coach, and he basically threatened me. I said, I'm going to do like all good little Cajun boys from Golden Meadow. I'm going to go work in the shrimping business or go work offshore. And he basically threatened me that if I ever said I was going to quit school again, he was going to whip my tail. And I kind of believed him. And so I stayed in school. I did quit football, but I stayed in school, and stayed here for 3 years on this campus, living and learning on this campus. And I'd work offshore during the summers. And coming into my senior year, had an opportunity to join the firm actually in an office spot, which is what I was getting a business administration degree, which is what I wanted to do.
Okay.
Knew timing was of essence there. So I actually moved back home, finished my degree at night at Nichols, still did it in 4 years, but was working full time during that 4th year. Got really, really lucky. Sold a company 13 years later, and kind of had to agree not to work anymore in that business, sort of a non-compete idea, and got my first master's while that 13 years was going on at night at the University of New Orleans, and then went in to get a second master's in economics and a PhD in economics at the University, I like to say the real University of Illinois, Chicago. And just an amazing time in my life. And spent 10 years there. Never thought I was going to be there for that long. Thought I would get a doctorate and come back down here. Spent 10 years because I got hired on at the Federal Reserve as an economist at the Federal Reserve in Chicago. Spent a decade in Chicago. Fell in love with higher education during that point in our life, and had the opportunity to go to Arizona, get into higher education full time, and just feel so blessed to be in the position we're in today. Was there for 6 years or so. Mom got sick. Had the opportunity to move home right before the hurricanes to take care of her when she kind of needed us most at sort of the end of her life, and mother-in-law as well. So never planned any of it. The only reason I brought you down that entire path, never planned any of it, but there's no doubt in my mind the good Lord had a plan all along, and I was just waking up every morning and working as hard as I can, and when a door opened, run through the next one, and when a door opened, run through the next one. It's a very unique career path to get in a situation where you have private sector experience, government experience, and higher education experience to bring back to the great state of Louisiana. And most importantly, to be home when our parents needed us most. And again, I don't think that was an accident. I think it was all part of a much larger plan to put us in a place where we think it's hard to come back in higher education in Louisiana. It doesn't pay. We've been so blessed in our lives. Miss Angela was a neonatal intensive care unit nurse for a bunch of years, and kind of got to a situation where we're financially in a position that she didn't have to work anymore, but again, got to come home. And I am not good at the medical stuff. I smell a hospital when I pass out. I'm an economist and a finance guy. Miss Angela is the polar opposite. It just was here. She basically moved in with my mom and her mom to take care of them at the end of their life. So just, again, I think about that whole 25 or 30-year journey, of which not one step was planned. I would encourage the audience to plan better, but not one step was planned. But obviously there was a much larger plan in place.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's how we got back before the hurricanes.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
I just because I'm curious, how did you meet your wife?
Wonderful story. I don't know if that is the best story for this broadcast, but we're going to tell it because I'm all about transparency.
There you go.
I had in my first career, I was in the oil field business and used to entertain a lot of clients. And one night, in walks a little hole in the wall restaurant on Bayou Lafourche, and walks in, and I joked with a bunch of oil field guys. I think my next wife just walked in the room, and I kind of walked across and kind of said, "Will you marry me?" Kind of as a joke, but not kind of as a joke. And she said, "Absolutely not." And a year later, she did. So,
wow.
And she was a cradle Catholic. I was not. But strongly encouraged me to go through RCIA. I told her I wasn't going to do it unless she came with me, and we pivoted around differently. You know, she kept getting called back to the church. I was trying to Protestant churches. We knew we wanted to do it together, but we wanted to be a place where we were comfortable and truly getting nourished, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And in Arizona, while we were in Arizona, had an amazing priest there that are really, homilies were just out of this world, and really felt connected the first time in a long time back with any church. And he and Angela are what originally started as twisting my arm to go through RCIA together. She came to every step along the way, even though she was a cradle Catholic, and it was just a wonderful experience, wonderful church, wonderful time. So that's been 10 years ago, probably.
Wow.
So really were involved there. We led our own little student Bible study there, and came back here and was living in Big Lake as a faculty member, as a dean, and was with Father Gaddy at the little church on the island down there. And again, just felt really at home. And but once I became president, I thought it was very, very important that we celebrate Mass with our students. Mass is a celebration every time we get to go to it, and it was important to me that we get the opportunity to celebrate with our students. So I'm still trying to figure out what Mass has got the most kids there, but it looks like 6:00. I call it Last Chance Mass. Seems like the one where I see the most students there. So we're trying to change our schedule around where we're around more students, given the row that we're in. We live in the dorm, which is right across the street. So just trying to figure that out. I want to celebrate Mass with the most kids that we can get around us. Not kids. They don't like to be called kids, but young adults. So it's important
I call us kids.
President of the university, that we can celebrate Mass together.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It really is. It's good to have a good role model in that, you just want to come celebrate Mass with these young adults. And
I fall down every day, so I don't know that I'm the best role model. I fall down every day.
But that's real life.
It's part of the journey, right? So it's so much easier, though, for me. Again, I've been through it where I didn't feel like I was in the right space spiritually and wasn't as strong. Even in the last 10 years, you get so busy and you think about it. And it always seems when I'm most miserable is when I'm not reading my daily readings, when I've skipped a mass. I feel like, when you stop and why do I feel this way? And it's pretty obvious when you stop and look around. So I'm just blessed beyond what I deserve. And me and Miss Angela, we were early morning people, like 4 o'clock in the morning. And that's our best time together, from 4 to 6. We do our daily readings together, and it's truly all the fights and alligators that we have to wrestle every day. And being a university president is just not there for those 2 hours. And it's truly, we drink coffee together, giggle about how do we get here? How do you go from Golden Meadow to the Federal Reserve to the university president? Is, again, blessed beyond our years, but it's time consuming. It's it's a lot of time on the road, more than I anticipated. Back and forth to Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge right now, higher education in our state is truly in the middle of a paradigm shift, and resources are not enough to go around. So we have got to get up there in the elbow and make the case for why it's important that we get the marginal funding. But it's a zero-sum game. If we get it, somebody else loses. So it's a competitive environment until we restructure. So a lot more time leaving the dorm at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and going to dinner and making our case why it matters in terms of our curriculum, in terms of developing the future workforce, and then getting back to the dorm at midnight, waking up at 4. I think that's been the biggest surprise. It's a year. April 25th will be a year.
Oh, wow.
So what are we? Almost to the 25th today. Well, I know when this is going to actually drop, it'll be a little later. But it's almost a year since we've been in this role. And we've slept 5 nights at our house. The rest of the time we're in that dorm. That has been, by the way, one of the most
I was about to ask.
rewarding pieces of the whole deal. I know everybody in the dorm. It's not they've realized it's not a game.
Yeah.
I'm in there because I want to be close. I want to hear about problems. I want to be part of trying to be a positive impact in their life. I want to be there when we're going to celebrate good grades. I want to be there when we're going to talk about bad grades and good things in their life and bad things in their lives. When their girlfriend breaks up with them, it's was not anticipating that, to be completely transparent. I moved into dorm because 5 years since the hurricane, the president's house is still not fixed. And we weren't getting enough notoriety, if you will, at the state level to get those funds released. So I figured if I moved in the dorm that they'd hear enough about it and they would release the funds to fix the house. And that has started. It will be out for bid here in the next 30 to 60 days. Wow. Still a year away before it's going to be ready.
Right.
He's completely remodeled. But for our university, it's very important that when people drive on Ryan Street, they don't see a haunted house, what it appears to be a vacant haunted house. And it really, truly is a nice residence that we're hosting student events downstairs and really becomes part of our campus again. It really hurts us right now as a recruiting, the lack of it and the poor aesthetics of it is not a good thing to recruit to. So it's been one of our priorities to get the house rebuilt since the hurricane. So that was part of the strategy of moving into the dorm.
Wow. Interesting.
I'm excited to see, after all the renovations and the work is done on campus, I'm so excited to see how beautiful it's going to look.
Right. What a blessing, right? When you think about the complete agony that we've been through since the hurricanes, when we're going to wake up another 3 years down the road and look back and say, what an incredible blessing. We had over $50 million of deferred maintenance on this campus.
Wow.
We had $200 million of damage on this campus. We're about $100 million into the rebuild. But when we're going to go through it, and look, enrollment suffered because of it and everything else, housing was beat up in this town. But we're going to go back and look at it. Our deferred maintenance budget will be fixed. Otherwise, the state wasn't going to fix that. So we'll have a brand new student union. We'll have a new football stadium. Sherman Fine Arts is in the middle of being remodeled today. Our autism center is going to move right across the street where the old police station was. They'll finally get out those hurricane trailers that are over there by the football stadium. Have a new post office at the Rousse Center. It's the old ranch will completely be torn down. The goal there is that we'll have more housing right in the middle of campus. It's getting cool again to live on campus for the first time in a long time. Housing is filled.
Wow.
And I think once the union is up and it's not so, excuse my language, but completely nasty to be in the old ranch right now and try to eat in there. It really will revive sort of the student experience on our campus. And speaking of the old ranch, it's horrible. And when I first moved in the dorm, Miss Ansel and I was like, well, we need to go eat there as often as we can. When I first went, I was like, it's not too bad. And then about the third meal, I'm looking around and I see mold on the ceiling and thinking, ugh. But we have no other place right now.
Right.
We have to feed the students somewhere, and that's our option. So we make the best out of it. And just know that at the end of this calendar year, we'll have almost a $40 million union, which would be state-of-the-art cafeteria and food services are going to be out of this world. So
that's incredible.
Really exciting. Really exciting.
That's a huge blessing too.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Which you didn't think it at the time, right? When we were trying to, if you remember right, if you haven't, I'm scarred so badly I can remind you. But COVID, I just got home. COVID hit. Mm-hmm. We had to shut down the university. We went all online.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And 2 major hurricanes, which completely wipes out the infrastructure. So how do you go online when there is no online? And one of the things I'm most proud about as wasn't the president, but I was executive vice president, or dean back then, was the partnership with AT&T and standing up the parking garage and having hotspots and generators and seeing students drive up, getting on their laptop, getting to the server, downloading their assignments and going back home and working on it where there was no internet back home. And we still graduated 780 something students with basically supposed to be online because of COVID, and we had no infrastructure to be online. Mm-hmm. Remember, right, we were out of electricity for 6 weeks and no internet for longer than that. So just an incredible community that pulled together with that sort of whatever it takes attitude to get us through that point. And to your comment earlier, looking back on that, it was just hellacious, but it's going to be a blessing. At the end of the day, we're going to have a wonderful, improved campus.
Mm-hmm.
That might be 6, 7, 8 years later, but there's no way we would have got the state money to do the improvements that we're going to get at the end of this thing. So truly, with the benefit of time, has been a blessing, or will be a blessing.
For sure. For sure. Going into the community, like you just said, I mean, how has that been for you here back home, like Charles?
Yeah.
Especially like on campus, like how are the students?
Yeah. So they keep telling me the culture has changed. I mean, we walk our little dog who's really sick right now. And Ansel and I didn't have kids of our own, and we have 6,243 of them, and we try to love them like they're all our own. And we have this little dog that she's raised since she's a baby that's 12 years old.
Oh,
it's getting sort of towards the end, so she's struggling with that right now. But we walk on campus normally every morning, right at daybreak, and every night right before or right at dark, and have students that walk with us, and that's been really, really rewarding as well, just to have that connection. The community, in terms of the outside community supporting our McNeese, is phenomenal. We've raised more money than just about any university. I want to say any of the 9 schools in the last 6 years or 5 years than any of them. We raised over $40 million in 36 months leading up to the hurricane and after the hurricane to get our endowment in a very, very good position. So our community understands the importance of McNeese in developing the future workforce, and we've got a lot of buy-in from. We have big industry here. The LNG industry is a huge investment that we're carving some curriculum out towards. In addition, they just support having this university here. So I'm going to tell you that I don't think all of these universities are going to continue to thrive with a population shrinking in the state of Louisiana. So we've got to be creative and do the right things to make sure that we're not one of those that go by the wayside. So we're working hard to get community involvement, telling our story. We have a strategic plan that we just put out. I don't believe in a book and glossy pictures. I believe in a strategic plan that truly drives our actions. And our vision is very straightforward. We want to be the premier regional institution in all of Louisiana and Southeast Texas. And our mission is we're going to provide a life-changing higher educational experience. And we don't hide behind our values: faith, family, hard work, collaboration, teamwork.
Mhm.
For a university to say that, it's not common.
No,
But
not
we
at
are
all.
we're unapologetic and
Mhm.
say it
Awesome.
everywhere we go. And I think that has something to do with the culture change that we're seeing.
Mhm.
And this is what we're trying to carve out a place that tries to create the best versions of ourselves. If anybody needs it more than me, I'd like to. I need it every day and work on it every day. So that's the culture we want here. We think that really differentiates us as a university, and we're focused on doing that.
Great. Now, just kind of going off of that too, what kind of work do you guys do with Suella, the technical college in Lake Charles?
Yes, that's a great question. So when I got here as the dean of the College of Business, first thing was where are all of our 2+2 agreements, which is in Arizona was very common. So the universities had 2+2. So you could go to a community college for 2 years. All of your credit would transfer in, and you wouldn't lose any time. And if you want to get a bachelor's degree, you just moved right in. We didn't have that. So I was the first one at Zoella to do the business 2+2. Me and the old dean there. So now you could go there and you can 57 of your 60 credits would transfer into the College of Business today. We've continued to try to do that with more and more programs to make it a clean transition. Now, look, when I think about the labor force, it's not always about a bachelor's degree. There's a huge shortage out there for mechanics and all the things Zoella's offers. So I don't ever think of us as competitors. I think of us as complementary folks that are working to try to develop the labor force. And we want to have, if folks want to continue to get a bachelor's degree, we want to make that as seamless as possible, if you will, that they can make that transition over. But when I got here, it seemed like the talk was us versus them. And I said, shouldn't be that, because we offer two completely different products. The question is, how do we offer a product that truly advances GDP growth in this region? And that's through trying to develop the workforce at all levels. And if we can help them in any way, we will. And if they can develop programs for folks that want to continue, we want to make sure we do that. So definitely have one in business. We have one in nursing. And I think there's a few other ones that I'm not aware of. But definitely the one in business I was the author of. So I know it's out there.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
So talking back now about faith, you said you were not Credo Catholic and you went through RCIA. How important is it to have that faith life on the college campus? I know you said you try personally to go to mass with the students, but how important is it, like, as a message to these students to continue living faith?
I hate to say this, but it's personally and selfishly, I don't even think of it as sort of a role model or this is what we do. I need to be nourished. If I need it from me personally, I grew up poor, grew up aggressive, grew up wanting to have a better life and whatever it takes attitude. And that tends to put you in a situation where maybe you're making decisions that are selfish. And for me, I need to be fed. I absolutely need to be fed. So selfishly, I never even think about it as, hey, I think it's a good role model for my mass. The reason I want to be at masses with students is because I'm the president of a university and I want to celebrate that incredibly special time with them. Not that I want them to see me there and, hey, continue to have a wonderful, supportive wife and worry about, making sure you get your sacraments in order. Selfishly, until you just brought that up, I really never, I never think of it that way. I just think of it that for me, selfishly, I'm not the best version of myself when I'm not really, really focused on my faith. I'm just not. And I feel it. And I'm old enough now that I can make corrective action relatively quickly. I don't have to get way out there before I can make it a little corrective action. So, but truly, I don't think of it as, hey, let's all go to mass and this is what you're going to do when you become an old gray-haired man. I just think of it as a wonderful opportunity to be with students, to celebrate mass together. So, I think selfishly, it's more about me being nourished than to be thought of as a role model.
I don't think that's selfish at all. I think that's very fair. I think we all need to be nourished and fed for sure. But for students, what kind of advice would you say? Like, the BCM here is great too, and the Catholic Center here is great. But what would you like? How would you help a student who needs to incorporate that into their schedule?
Yeah, so I think that brings up a big point that we kind of touched on earlier about universities and this idea of forcing some sort of ideology, right?
Mm-hmm.
You hear it all the time that some universities may have maybe liberal leaning and they're forcing this certain political ideology. And this other university may be more conservative leaning and they're forcing this sort of ideology. I'm adamantly opposed to that. I believe higher education is a place where we should be developing a platform to have intelligent conversation, to push us towards the true frontier of knowledge, not to be a place where I'm going to dictate some sort of ideology. Mm-hmm. I even think about that in terms of faith, whatever that is, whatever religion you want to call it. The idea of religion is something that, again, as my journey, to me, it's about a personal relationship with God, period. And whatever conduit you use that gets you closer to that, that's wonderful. For me, after going through this most of my life and going through RCIA, the structure of the church, the structure of our faith, the structure of the Catholic Church is very appealing to me. I think I'm a very linear in thought type of guy. And when I was going through sort of RCIA and challenging everything, you really could sit down and think about the tradition and why we do what we do in Mass and why why is the Eucharist so important? I mean, when we say, Lord, I'm not worthy that you should enter into my room, but only say the words and I shall be. That's so meaningful, right? Mm-hmm. It's so meaningful that that he's a part of our life. And it shouldn't just be emotion. But for me, some people, they think of that as too structured. For me, the structure I need, it's just the way my brain works. I'm a linear when I walk in church and, we take the holy water and we look at the red candle. I mean, mm-hmm. God's present. And all of that, those little traditions that we kind of take for granted, coming from the Protestant world and coming into a very structured, again, this is over 10 years ago, but it's very, very important to me. So from the student's perspective, I would say find your way that allows you to be the best version of yourself. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't want to dictate that from being a part of a religion or whatever that is. I would encourage you to truly find your way. From me, it's a heck of a lot more fulfilling, and to be so confident that I walk and talk with my Lord and Savior every day. So that's a very, very confident thing for me. But I would encourage students, you got to go through the journey. For it to be real, you got to go through the journey and figure out where that's at.
Absolutely. But yeah, I would say probably one of my favorite stories that I heard this past year was the first day of school. And I'm an alumni member of the sorority of Chi Omega. And it was probably one of my favorite stories I'd ever heard. I hadn't really heard much about you. And it was the first day of school and we were having like a get together with some of the other girls. And they were saying how on the first day of school you were riding on the golf cart like around campus and like saying hi to everyone and just like celebrating first day of school. And I thought, how fun is that? Just because it felt like growing up, the first day of school was always a big deal. Like your mom took a picture of you in like your little uniform and your new backpack, and like it was a fun day. And I just appreciated that because I thought that like there's no reason as to why that excitement and that fun, like the joy of learning, shouldn't stop once you get to college just because you're growing up and getting older. So how do you think that like have you seen much of a change in like the energy that you bring to the campus? Have you seen that kind of grown in the students?
I think so. I mean, that's always I do that every year at the beginning of the year. And for me, it's important to put different people in the golf cart. I try to grab them and bring them to their class.
Yes, that's what they were saying. Yeah.
Their class. And it's really important for me, again, selfishly, I like to put different people that don't know each other. And a lot of times those conversations are so rewarding for me. And you can truly see the transformation of higher education in the golf cart. And what I mean by that is you got a freshman who is nervous, doesn't know where the buildings are, is trying to figure it out, and you can just they're shaking, they're just so nervous. And then you got a senior who's like, Doc, I got this thing figured out. I finished my internship. I've already taken a job offer. I just got to get this last semester in the books. I'm out of here.
Right.
And you're able to experience sort of that whole higher education transformation in a golf cart as you're driving them to class. So it's a wonderful time. That first day, I will do it every semester here. We used to do that at NAU as well. The NAU campus was a lot larger, so the golf cart rides meant a lot more. Here, it's more like a shuffle, in and out of the cars. So it's important. I think another thing Angela always says to me is that we got to be present. If you're going to be president, you got to be present. We got to be approachable. That's why we live in the dorm. That's why we walk on the campus. That's why we eat in the cafeteria. It's important to us that students know who we are. That doesn't mean we give them a free grade or anything, but I want to be able to say, hey, there's a challenging class. How do we get help? I mean, this is about transforming human beings into add value into the marketplace. I mean, if you really think about what we do for a living and creating the best version of themselves. So very, very important. So for us to be present and just not to be sitting in an office somewhere is something we take very seriously. And try to support every club on campus. I'm a Kappa Sig. I know I went to the Caillou House. I mean, we try to support Greek life, try to support clubs. We try to be at everything we can be. Our theater department's phenomenal. This year had a play that advanced in the Kennedy Series competition.
Wow.
Big fan of our marching band. I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out ways to get money so that we could keep growing it and growing it and growing it. Again, I'm just blessed to be in this role. And I don't take it lightly, and I don't want to miss a minute. I don't want to wake up a year from now and say, "Oh, I had this opportunity to." As a result of that, I don't get much sleep. But I'm just so blessed to be in it. And I mean, this morning started a typical day. I've been in meetings all day. I gave a speech at lunch. We're going to come here. I'm going to go back, try to clean my desk. I have a president's reception tonight, which was with some former leaders from around the university system that are here on our campus to learn some leadership skills and traits. So I'll address them tonight. And then kind of get home in the dorm probably around 10-ish. And for us, that's kind of an early night because a lot of times we'll have donors that we're having dinner with. But 4 o'clock tomorrow morning, we'll be back up and at it because I don't want to miss anything. I don't want to take this opportunity for granted. I think it's very important that we're in a situation to change higher education in the state of Louisiana. And I don't want to sleep 1 minute and think that I missed something. So probably not the most healthiest life, but again, so blessed and kind of explains why we're so much out there because we just don't want to miss.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure that makes it makes a huge difference without a doubt.
So we're hearing constantly, but I always tell Angela it could be biased data. We're hearing students saying, "Gosh, so different. We're so glad you're here." We hear that, but I'm thinking they tell that to anybody. They're not going to walk up to you and say, "You stink." You're not even. So, we're hearing it. I think some of the metrics that matter. For me, I'm a very numbers guy. We were down 14 straight years in fall semester enrollment growth. We're up 3% this fall.
Oh, wow.
15 straight years in the spring. We're up 3.6% this spring. Applications are currently up 17% for the fall.
Wow.
So after doing this for 15 years, we've certainly changed some data that matters. We had our commitment day the other day, and don't quote me on the exact numbers, but I think the most we'd ever had on campus was like 200. We had 811, so quadrupled that number.
Wow.
So we've created a lot of excitement, I think, to your earlier question, and whether or not that ultimately translates to enrollment, we'll see in the fall. But we've seen the fall and the spring up for the first time in 14 and 15 years. If we get that kind of number in the upcoming fall, it'll probably be the first time in 3 decades that we see that kind of a change. So
Wow.
Yeah.
really exciting. Again,
That is
blessed being
very
in our
exciting.
years.
No, and it only helps that we have things like our basketball team doing so well.
Yeah.
And it's also exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an intentional move, by the way. We, we think about when you develop a strategy, you think about core competencies, right? And here versus Chicago versus Arizona, completely different core competencies. When we think about us, we kind of like us. We kind of like people. We kind of like crawfish balls.
Mm-hmm.
We like getting together. We just like gatherings. That's not the case in Chicago and Arizona, where I spent a lot of time. It's just not. It's just not who we are. So when we put a strategic plan together, okay, how do we leverage that? How do we build on those core competencies of our region? Because we're a regional university. And okay, what gets people excited is athletics, it's theater, it's band, just things that really gather people together and they can celebrate. So we've intentionally invested in those areas to get people excited. And our basketball team, when we beat Clemson, we normally get about 1,000. So we built this whole model so we could truly track it empirically if it's working or not.
Yeah.
And we tracked advertising equivalency. In other words, how much would we have to pay to get that many eyeballs looking at our brand? I had over $100 million of advertising. And given that my budget's $250,000, I think it was a pretty good.
Wow.
$100 million of advertising equivalency over a 10-day period from the time we won the conference championship to the time we lost in the second round of the NCAA tournament.
Wow.
And during the first game, Clemson, we normally get about 1,000 to 2,000 visitors a day on our website. And we track that. In 1 minute, we had 54,000 people trying to get on the website. And it cracked. It wouldn't keep track anymore. Couldn't take it anymore. And it disappeared for like 20 minutes. And it came back into so no telling how many was actually trying to get on in that little period. But that, just showed you how important brand elevation is. And the people that, not only people out of the state that now know who McNeese is, but more importantly, that marginal student that's in Jennings and is thinking about whether they should come here, or I still say USL. People don't like that, but
UL.
they're making that decision. If they saw us on television, they saw the excitement, that may make the decision to get them here. And ultimately, our revenue depends on enrollment, so we've got to grow enrollment, and that's why we've made such a conscious effort after being down for 14 and 15 years. Our strategic plan, primary objective, is to stabilize enrollment. We got to do that, and we're doing it. And plans coming together, so we're really excited about it. Really excited about it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Praise be. That's awesome.
Yeah. That was a big jump. Different numbers there.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that is
sure.
incredible.
So what are some future plans you have for McNeese?
So I'm very calculated and so our primary objective is to stabilize enrollment. That's hopefully we can get that done. I think if we can go again after being down 14, 15 years, if we can actually go 3% our first semester, 3.6% our second semester, and maybe 4 or 5, 6% our third semester, I really think we've stopped the decline. At that point, we should have the revenue in place to one of the most sort of chronic issues in our campuses. Our faculty and staff are underpaid, period. We're below market wage. But you can't be above market wage if you don't have any money. So in order to get money, you got to get enrollment. So we're bringing that back. Big plans there are to truly try to start bringing our averages back up to what we have. All the data. What's the average of a math teacher, of an accounting teacher? Try to really start strategically leveling that out to where we can have quality employees that are excited to be here, not feel like they're donating their time. So that's a huge, huge priority that comes at the second leg of this plan after we stabilize enrollment. From a facility perspective, just so much excitement. I'm going to tour the student union. I can't express enough what big of a difference that's going to be, and what that quad's going to look like, and that is just going to be unbelievable. Really focusing on trying to get the facilities done, the revenue where we need to be, and bring our wages up over the next 18 months is where we're at. We had a 90-day, 180-day, and a year plan. we're about 85% of our metrics throughout all that, which is amazing that we were able to get all of that done. We restructured, we collapsed a college, we collapsed some departments, and do some cost efficiencies. Had to let some folks go. Had to really get people that were bought in. That's why we say we're riding for the brand, right? I mean, if you really want to, if you believe in our vision, our mission, and our values, and we argue that you're riding for the brand. And once we get enough folks in there, I think the sky's the limit. We can really bring this university back to new heights. And I think about why is that important? Now, I think about it personally when we hand a diploma. That's like buying a stock in a company in my mind. You invested 4 years of your life, your money. It's my responsibility to make sure that stock is more valuable over time. If you buy a piece of stock, you want it to go up. I'm arguing if you buy a diploma here, you want it to go up. You want it to be worth more and more, and more people realize what it is and the value. So we have this responsibility to put forward a great effort to make sure that we continue to add value and the perception of our university gets better and better and better over time. And that's how you build a very engaged alumni base. So it is very much our focus and our intention to have curriculum and graduates that are valued in the market. And all that does is our other tens of thousands of alumni that are out there makes them more and more valuable. It's just a circular flow in my mind. It's a very intentional effort to keep everything moving in the right direction. So those are those things that are right around the corner. We've got to get our facilities where we are. We're laser focused on that. We're laser focused on turning enrollment, getting rid of antiquated processes throughout the university, and the cherry on top of the ice cream, if you will, is the truly start to try to address the wage differentials that we have in this university. It's not healthy, and it's hard to have retention of not only students, but faculty. We want the best faculty, we have to pay. And again, I was gone for 20 years, and when I came back home, I didn't recognize higher education in the state. I missed a 20-year period where they had disinvested and enrollment went down. And when I was here, I thought we were at Princeton, it was an amazing experience. I want to make sure people feel like that again. So we're laser focused on that. That.
Awesome. Oh, we don't want to take much more of your time, but I guess we kind of had one more question to end off. It's nearing the end of the semester. And then after the summer, we'll have new students. So what would just some advice be to the graduates this semester and also to upcoming freshmen?
Yeah, so for graduates, it's a great question. I hope and pray that we've provided you with skill sets that will get you gainfully employed upon graduation. That's the first step. And number two is that you leave with a sense of curiosity. Learning never ends. When I wake up every morning, learning never ends. Angela and I kind of opened up a little bit about our morning time. It's very special to us. And we normally end that with a prayer that we get the strength to continue to lead this amazing university and have the ability and strength and wisdom and to be able to articulate, even with this Cajun accent, articulate the words we need. It's a very important role, not only for students' lives, but for this region, for GDP in the entire region, which ultimately increase the livelihoods of the entire society. So very important. I don't take that lightly. So for students that are leaving, I hope you leave with that same desire to continue to learn, to be curious, to be pioneers in your field, whatever field that is. Be pioneers, continue to push the envelope, innovate your thoughts, innovate who you are every day. So to me, if you leave with those two things, you'll be very, very successful. And by the way, success is not always just measured in monetary things. That's also very important. People get to define what success is. And I just want them to be thoughtful in what they define and not just accept that, oh, this is where I'm at, so that's success. I would rather you sit down and say, whatever, if you're going to be a missionary, if you're going to, what does success look like in your mind? It's important to have a time to reflect in my mind. that, okay, this is where I'm going 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. You're going to have to pivot the whole way. But I just want our students to be able to think that way. I think it's very beneficial. Freshmen coming in, you're in for a whirlwind, right? Next 4 years are going to be challenging in a lot of ways. I would argue maybe the most beneficial 4 years of your life. It's certainly going to be the first time you're pushed outside of sort of the norms. We all come up with sort of innate biases. You're going to have that challenged when you're not under the protection of your home and parents' way of raising you. And I would encourage you to stop and think again about, you don't have to agree with someone else's opinion, but stop and think about it. Really pushes us towards frontier knowledge. So the other thing I would say is go to class. I hear so many stories still to this day. The first year freshmen, they don't realize that class is important until like Christmas. Got to go to class. It's just so much easier if you go to class. Actually show up in class, not just pretend. Like go to class.
Right.
And the third thing is get involved.
Mm-hmm.
Get involved. Even if the robotics club, Greek life. Join one of the churches on. Get involved, because the skill sets and the education that you learn is one thing. The network that you develop truly lasts a lifetime. I get a text every morning. We're 35 years out of college. I get a text every morning from my roommates that were here. They're successful CEOs. One's a doctor. One, and the text message, so sometimes inappropriate, is like we're 19 years old in King Norman McNeese's campus. That relationship, those relationships last a lifetime.
Yeah.
You got to invest into it, though. I was fortunate enough to be a part of a football team where we lived together, ate together, played together. You had to develop those relationships. I just think it's so important that you got to get involved in some. And there's so many clubs, and people think it's only Greek life. It's just not true. I mean, there's just so much ways to get invested in terms of building relationships that will last a lifetime. So that's my advice. Go to class, truly get involved.
Yes, for sure.
And you'll be all right.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Wow, we sure do thank you again for joining us.
Again, thank you for having me. This is a special thing to me, and I'm humbled to talk to this audience. My faith's very important to me, and I never want to hide behind my faith. I never want to feel as though I use it as an offensive tool, but it's so important to me because it gives me happiness and it gives me a reason to live, and it gives me a sense of being. And I feel like, again, I think I said, I had no plan. I never in a million years, when I was a 24-year-old version of myself running a company, where I thought I'm going to end up being the university president of the university that gave me my start. Now, that's so far from any thought. But when I look at my life and I think about how did we get here, again, Ansel and I giggle constantly. We've got 6,243 kids. We're hoping for more than that in the fall. And we didn't have kids of our own, but it was all for a reason. We get to truly try to make a positive impact on this student body, not only for them personally in their self-growth and working with them to be the best version of themselves, but also to be a productive citizen of society and to develop the workforce in this region. I can't imagine a more important job. And I'm just blessed and honored to be here and to be in it. So I fail every day. I need your prayers. I fail every day. Every day I fail. So I need your prayers. So I ask you, think about old Doc every once in a while, because I definitely need your prayers to make sure that we're doing the right thing for our university and our student body. It's very important to me.
Absolutely. All right. Well, on that note, would you like to pray us out of this podcast?
I would absolutely love that.
Thank you.
Father in heaven, thank you so much for this day, for this opportunity to share our thoughts about with this amazing young couple. and the audience that they represent, Lord. I thank you for the opportunity for being in this role. I hope that someone in this audience benefits from hearing the struggles and daily trials and tribulations that a university president goes through, and however, knowing that there is a sense of security and support through a faith, and knowing that our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ walks with us in every step of the way, Lord. And I thank you for that. I thank you for the confidence. I thank you for continuing to wake me up every morning at an age with a lot of energy and just hope that others can see you through me, Lord. And again, thank you for what you do. Thank you for this week, and as we move upon Easter, and for getting on that cross for me, Lord. And thank you for all you do, and in your most holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was awesome.